I got a message on the channel earlier on today, and it really encouraged me. 52-year-old gentleman, he put a post up saying he's never voted in his life before, and he went out this morning for the first time ever, and he voted for reform. And I think that's a similar story across the country. I mean, a lot of people got involved in the political process when the Brexit vote happened. But I think there's even more energy out there on the sensible let's just call it common sense politics. Let's not call it right or left anymore. Let's just call it common sense, because right and left really mean nothing. The Conservative Party is meant to be right wing. They're no more right wing than Chairman Mao. But this guy went out this morning and said first time ever he's voted, and he voted for reform. That is great news. Not because he voted for reform, but because he voted for the first time. And it's really now up to reform to put their money where their mouth is and start making change in this country politically. Like I've said, I believe there's two different movements going on, probably more than two different movements, but certainly there's the political movement and then there's the cultural movement. And what we're trying to do is build a cultural movement, which is a lot deeper than a political movement, because political parties come and go. But if those political parties aren't based on values, and values that are coming from the culture and coming from the demos, the population, the mass of the people, then they will change. As all these parties have. If you look at the Conservative Party in the 1980s, by the time John Major took over and they ousted Margaret Thatcher, the whole party had been subverted and taken over once again by the Wets. So this is why culture is so important, and this is why building this deep cultural movement, and this cultural movement has got to be attractive to young people. And to do that, this cultural movement has got to give young people hope and a future. That is very, very important. And I believe, like I said in the previous video, we do this by faith, family, community and flag. They're the four pillars of any cultural movement. But not only that, we've actually got to have practical advice, practical steps taken to ensure that young people, and I'm talking people that are 13, 14, 15 now, when they're coming up to being 18, 19, 20, they've got something to aim for. And they know they can have a family. They know they can get a home. They know they can get a good job. They know they can have security. They can have self-esteem. They can have safety. Because a lot of kids, especially in the cities, are not feeling safe. Especially black kids. Black kids in London are the most likely demographic in the country to get stabbed. Then white working class boys are the most deprived children in the country. And something needs to be done for the young people. Something needs to be done for our children and our grandchildren. My grandson's 13 years old. My son is, what age is my son? 31, coming 31. 31? Yeah, he's 31. So a big range between my grandson and my son. My son's married a girl from the Philippines. He's living out in the Philippines. It's going to be very difficult for him to bring his wife back to the UK in the current climate. Now, she's a Christian. She is culturally the same as people in the UK. She speaks good English. She's well educated. Should be very easy for him to bring his bride back into the United Kingdom, but it's not. Whereas if he was Abdul from Afghanistan coming across on a rubber dinghy, all he's got to do is get in that dinghy, throw his phone overboard, throw whatever papers he's got overboard, he's home free, he's in, and then he's got the whole system backing him to help him come into the country. Because I think every sensible person in the country knows that a certain amount of immigration is a good thing if we're getting the right people coming in. But when we're getting the wrong people coming in, when we're getting people coming in that won't contribute, that won't give anything back to the state, that will take, and then cast it back in your face and then say, actually, we want you to change and be like we are, that's when there's a problem. So when we have migration into the country, that migration must be from cultures and backgrounds that are the same. And then when we think about young people getting on the housing ladder, how's that going to happen? again, when we have this absolute tsunami of illegal migration and this tsunami of legal immigration, but again, that is stacked in favour of cultures that are foreign to our country and our culture, when that's going on, and we know that's going on, the house prices creep up and up and up and up. Everything becomes more expensive. Everything becomes more scarce. So for every 1% of immigration, house prices go up by 1%, pricing young British people out of the market. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. So to me, when you look at immigration, there's a couple of things. One, there should probably be almost no immigration whatsoever. But when there is immigration, the people that are coming in must be culturally the same as us. And when I'm talking about the same as us, I'm talking about the vast population of the United Kingdom. The people that come in should share our values, love our country, and want to be here to contribute and make Britain the greatest country on earth. That's the first thing. The second thing is they mustn't be a security risk. If you're getting people coming in from cultures and societies that actually actively want to destroy our country, that's a big, big problem. And again, when we look at our children and our grandchildren and we think about how they're going to shape their future and the society that they're going to grow into, they need opportunity. They need free speech. They need the shackles of the state shaken off. They need to be able to set up businesses without getting taxed to death. So there's all sorts of things. And a lot of this stuff is in the Reform Manifesto. And of course, a lot of this is political and not cultural. So when you look at the culture, there has to be a culture in the United Kingdom where young people are brave, where young men are tough. And I'm not talking about young men running around stabbing people, because that isn't tough. But young men that have done boxing, they've done martial arts, they're physically strong, they're robust. If you set them up in the hills for a couple of days, they survive. They're the sort of men that we need in the UK. We need men that are men. When I was 17, I joined the army. Did martial arts and boxing from when I was small up until, I suppose, my 30s, when I kind of settled down and stopped doing that sort of thing. But the reality is, lads need to be lads, and they don't need to be mollycoddled. They don't need to be thinking about their feelings all the time. They need to be men and need to grow up to be men. So that's a cultural thing, and that's a cultural issue. And I think it's very important that people are thinking about these things. And as we try and build this cultural movement, they're all parts of it. And again, faith. I believe faith is vitally important. For me, it's Christian faith. And to me, it's, the Christian faith is the only faith that's had any positive impact on this country. That and Judaism, the Judeo-Christian heritage that we talk about a lot, based on the Bible. So they're just a few thoughts. Again, I'm going to try and keep making these videos, because so often when we're making videos, we talked about a few problems there with immigration and housing and this, that and the other. But we've got to be looking at solutions as well. And the best solution for any young man is to grow up to be robust. That doesn't mean you're emotionless. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to have emotions. You're not allowed to feel things. But it means you've got to be physically tough. My generation, when we were growing up, we were physically tough. We kind of fought all the time. We ran about in fields all the time. We, worked on building sites when we left school. We went in the military. That's what my generation did. And that's what this generation, and there are many young lads do, but that's what this generation needs to be encouraged to do things that are difficult physically and mentally. And then you can start building a robust, tough, and a society with a backbone, which is what we need at the end of the day. See you all soon.